and welcome to my channel Inspiring Life Changes. My name's Colette and I'm here today to do the second part of my moon videos that I do. This is for the full moon in Aries that has taken place on the 9th of October. This is actually the 10th of October, so I am again a little bit late. Again, I'm going to put this down to Saturn squaring my Sun, which is giving me a lot of restrictions and grief at the moment. So not always easy to keep up with everything the way that I would like to be keeping up with it right now. So full moon in Aries, fiery, passionate energy. And for those of you who don't know how I do my videos, I write this down. So this is my interpretation, my intuitive interpretation of the astrology, of what's taking place for the collective at this time. And I usually start off with the cards behind the back, and also I have some cards down here which I will show you now, and then I'll explain the cards at the back. So this is the full moon in Aries, and it says a fiery climax approaches. Like I was saying, it's a fiery, passionate, energetic, forward moving energy. And I have a cat here again who's looking a little bit dodgy with certain things. So yeah, fiery, passionate, driving, can be anger as well, this energy. It can bring up triggering points as well, so we need to be careful of that. I will just say that the full moon energy lasts, it's not just for one day, it lasts for the whole fortnight up until the next new moon, which is going to be taking place at the end of October. And then we have the full moon energy itself, which is all about surrendering to the divine. Full moon energy is about culmination, it's about something that has reached a point of completion, fullness, time to let it go, release it. Again, depending on which house your energy is falling in for this Aries full moon will depend on what that is about for yourself. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, if you don't have your own natal chart to look at, there is a link in the description box down below for you to go and check that out for yourselves. You just need your time, date and place of birth, and that will give you an overall picture of what was happening in the sky at the time that you were born. And lastly, we have the energy of this moon, which is a cardinal moon. Cardinal energy is very much active action energy, pushing things forward. It says be bold and make the first move. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, so it can be very forceful energy as well. Mars is a very forceful sign, very forceful energy. And I'm calling the reading itself the full moon in Aries and healing the wounded self, and I will explain more about that as I go through the reading. But first of all, I'm going to pull a card from the Spirit Animal Oracle and also explain the cards that are behind me as well. So we have the moon. The moon represents the people, the collective, the soul. Then we have the Mars card, which, as I was saying, is all about force, power, energy, passion, drive. Can be sexual, lustful kind of energy, very forward energy. Then we have next to that that was the Aries card that I was reading there. The Mars energy is that kind of energy. The Aries energy is very similar to the Mars energy itself, but it is about the self. It is the I am. It is the sovereign self. So the next card is the first house, and the first house represents the body, particularly the blood as well. So there could be issues coming up around this time to do with blood. But I'm not going to say much more about that. And then we have the last card, which is the fire element, very forceful, again, passion, driving. The word that it's using is desire. So that is another element of that Mars Aries energy that we're dealing with at this time. So we have the eagle spirit, which has come out for us. We've had the eagle spirit before, and it says eagle spirit has your back, which is good to know at this time with everything that's going on in the world, the craziness out there. So think of the eagles flying high above the other birds. And oh, I've just had a realization about this, because I do actually talk about eagles in the reading as well. So that's really interesting for me, how they have synchronized together. So again, okay, think of the eagles flying high above the other birds, soaring on the wind. Eagle spirit has appeared to ask whether you're willing to soar to new heights, even if that means solitude for a short while. Truly, all the wisdom of the world is available to you. When storms flash across the sky, it is eagle spirit that raises you above it, helping you conquer fear and overcome adversity, reminding you that spirit has your back and wants you to experience life at its fullest. At this moment, you are meant to know that you have the highest of wisdom and courage within, gifted to you by spirit and all the angels. Boldly build your nest in a lofty space and know that now you can fly effortlessly, proudly, embodying eagle spirit in all her glory and grace, claiming what is truly yours in divine timing. So that's very interesting, and I will talk a little bit more about eagles. So the divine masculine sun energy opposes the divine feminine moon energy during the time of a full moon. So this full moon is taking place on the 9th of October at 21:54 hours UK time, or 6 minutes to 10, which will be different in other parts of the world. So check out your own location to find out what time it will be happening where you are. It is occurring in the initiating, forward-moving cardinal energy of the Mars-ruled, headstrong, fiery, passionate, dynamic, assertive, spontaneous, action and leading energy of the first sign on the zodiac wheel at 16 degrees 32 minutes of Aries. If you have anything between the 11 to 26 degrees of any of the cardinal signs opposing 180 degrees Libra, which is where the sun is at this time, or either of the two 90-degree square angles, which are Cancer and Capricorn, you will be feeling the volatile potential of this full moon pulling you forward to fresh pastures the most intensely. I think we're all going to be feeling that at this time as well, but particularly the cardinal signs. So check out where these 11 to 26 degrees, but especially the 16-degree point of Aries falls for you with regard to your own personal house placement, as this is where it will be most prominent in your life at this time. Again, talking about the houses. So the chart, as I was talking about earlier, in the description box down below, that will tell you where the houses are, and of course you can then go online and look that up for yourself to see what that relates to, if you're not already aware of that. So for the collective, we are dealing with the first house, which governs the self, which is our outward expression, our identity, the physical body, as well as the blood moving within our body. It also covers the way we represent ourselves to others, our self-assurance, the way we come across, the first impressions we make, as well as how we react to new ideas, views and opinions. It is our willpower, courage, bravery, our sovereign self and our I am presence. At the time of this full moon, we find the ruler Mars at 22 degrees 46 or 23 degrees of Gemini. He's already starting to slow down as he gets ready to station retrograde at the end of October. Now though, he is in both a supportive, encouraging sextile with the moon, as well as a lovely, easygoing, easy-flowing trine with the sun. This is really helping to fire us up and drive us to create something new and inspiring, as both Mars and the Sun are also trine with Saturn at 18 degrees 44 minutes, retrograde Aquarius, which is forming a grand air trine, which is giving us some stability to ground our thoughts into the physical 3D dimension. That's the Saturn energy grounding us into the physical, which is helping us to set the foundations for the new that is emerging in our lives. If you have a lot of air in your natal chart, Saturn will give you the ability to get your head out of the clouds, fun as it might be, and focus on the reality of your life at present. The element of air is related to communication, conversations, speaking our mind. The words we say and how we say them are all given extra emphasis and are very much in the forefront of this full moon as it relates to our personal relationships, partnerships. We may also find it helpful at this time to write down what we are thinking if we are having difficulty verbalizing it. This could have us doing some deep thinking, mulling things over and being very logical about what makes sense when it comes to the next step in our lives. The moon, however, is here to remind us how the emotions and how we feel is also needed to be taken into consideration. A balance of the heart, Venus, and the head, Mars, is the best way to express our voice. Not to stay in the mind only, which can take us down many different scenarios and flights of fantasy if we give it free rein, especially with Mars at 22 degrees, almost 23 degrees, in a tight square with Neptune at 23 degrees 24 minutes retrograde in Pisces, and Mercury in opposition in Virgo, creating a T-square. And the focal point here is Mars, which could be a strong urge to act or react, particularly if we overanalyze something first. With that Virgo Mercury, this is a strong possibility, which could have us being overly critical, something else we should watch out for with Neptune, as if we have only a limited amount of information and knowledge about certain situations, not to go jumping to conclusions with impulsive Mars. The moon sextile Mars and sextile Saturn is supporting and encouraging us to bring our thoughts into the body and ground them through our emotions into the 3D realm. And then we can take action. With Mars also square to the planet of communication, Mercury is very close to the critical degree of 29 degrees. He's at 28 degrees 41. So he's adding an extra pressure to just say whatever has been building up within the mind that we need to say. Again, though caution is, be brave enough to say it, but try to do so with precision and accuracy, cut through any confusion without causing any drama. Mercury is still being opposed by Jupiter, who at 1 degree 59 retrograde continues to activate the axis mundi, the 0 point that represents the world stage and the start of something new beginning. So the 0 point of the axis mundi is basically saying that we're likely to see a lot of this play out on the world stage at this time in particular. And there is a lot going on out there that is to do with the Mars type of energy, the warrior. He is the god of war, so to speak, and he's very fiery and very intense. And with all this talk that we're having at this time about escalation of war, is very much to do with this Mars energy, Mars squaring to Mercury. In particular, Mars squaring Mercury. So So Jupiter also remains conjunct the higher vibrational 5D frequency of the trans-Neptunian object known as Manwë. And Manwë was also known as the Elder King, and he's part of the Tolkien mythology, which I spoke about in my last video, where the Rings of Power series has just come out on Netflix, and at the time that it was started to be advertised, Manwë was just reaching that 0 degree of the axis mundi, so it was literally kind of coming into the world's psyche. And so he's still there, he's still on that 0 point of the axis mundi, so he and Jupiter together are very powerfully kind of activating that particular point of the sky. And the name Manwë itself in mythology means blessed one, and Tolkien was actually he was a professor, I believe it was Oxford professor, but he studied ancient language, and so he knew a lot of things that were written down in very kind of old mysterious languages. That was his thing, that was his forte, that was how he came to write these amazing books like Silmarillion and Lord of the Rings, of course, and Hobbit. And he was a very wise man as well. So the way that he wrote these things, it kind of connects with our own psyche, our own hero's journey, if you like. So it was Manwë that kept the darkness of his brother Melkor at bay. Melkor is also known as Morgoth as well in the stories. And it was also Manwë who did not have, however, the ability to see the darkness and the evil that existed in his brother in the first place, which was Manwë's greatest flaw. So Manwë can also be likened to the god Jupiter, Zeus, who was known as a god of the sky, just as Manwë was. And both of them are linked to the high-flying eagle, which is a symbol of strength, courage, immortality, which is very interesting because that's the card that came out for us earlier. He's also a messenger as well, used by the gods as a messenger due to their far-sightedness, because eagles have incredibly good vision. So interestingly, the eagle has been used as an emblem or totem by many different cultures and is still being used as such today. It is also where the mythological phoenix derives from, which is very fitting for the US as we see it going through its biggest transformational experience to date. Of course, the bald eagle is the emblem of the US. And so with Pluto still conjunct that 27 degrees 33 minutes natal point, the Pluto natal point, which is about to be hit again directly on the 20th of December. But right the way through this, because Pluto got to 28 degrees before he retrograded back to the 26 degrees where he's just stationed, and all the way through that whole retrograde period of time, he never stopped being conjunct that 2733 critical point for the US natal chart of transformation, which is why everything is kind of changing in such a rapid fashion in the US. But also interestingly as well, if you listen to any of the talk or the news channels or any of the alternative media in the US as well, it is very much focused on the Constitution, very much focused on the 1776 period of time, which is where that Pluto point comes from. It was in 1776 when the Declaration or the Constitution was signed, and Pluto was exactly at 27 degrees 33. So they are having their first, the US is having their first Pluto natal return. Even if they're not aware of it, it is so obvious to those who understand what's going on that it's happening right now in front of our eyes. And interestingly as well, for the US, it actually takes place in the second house. So the second house is the house of finance, resources, values. So we're seeing all of that being kind of upheavaled, transformed, changed. And it's also very prominent in the world's chart as well at this time, because we also have Uranus in the second house as well. So that's really, we've got like a double dose of second house energy being hit at this time. So so interestingly, when Pluto reaches that 28 point, or the 27 point on the 28th of December, he's also going to be sextile both Jupiter and Manway. And as I said before, this is like a double dose of Jupiter as well, double dose of Jupiter energy that we are in at this time. And it feels like the turning point of the hero's journey, when all seems dark and lost, when the hero appears to have lost it all. Something unexpected happens to turn it all around. A stroke of good luck, good fortune, a truth being revealed, all things that Jupiter has in abundance. And of course, Manway is very much a positive energy as well. He was the positive side. He was the light side of the darkness. So it's that duality there again. So to top all this off, Jupiter will be at 0 degrees Aries and Manway is at 29 degrees, both activating the world axis, while Pluto is sextile. So this is on the 28th of December that this is going to happen. But at the same time, both Mercury and Venus are going to be conjunct Pluto as well. So this is like the beginning of the end of the difficult birthing period that the US has been going through. Like, it feels kind of like contractions easing up as the baby moves into the birth canal and the urge to push begins. So it is a force of the universe and nothing can stop what is coming. I am, however, jumping ahead of myself, which has probably got something to do with us entering into this kind of eclipse season. So the eclipse season is beginning now. We're already in it. We're starting to feel it. And the next new moon in Scorpio on the 25th of October is going to be a partial solar eclipse in Scorpio. So an interesting aspect of that new moon is its conjunction with Venus, which we also have with this full moon in Aries. So Venus at 13 degrees and 9 minutes of Libra is the ruler of the sign she is in. Here she is in domicile, which means she is expressing all those Libran traits and qualities like very easily, very naturally, very clearly and with clarity. And adding to this is the fact she is being fully highlighted by the sun at the same time. So all the attributes of the Venus love of beauty, pleasure, romance, artistic flair, the feminine, softer, more gentle side of her nature are being expressed, which we could do with at this time. We need a lot more of that energy at this time. With all this kind of very masculine energy. Mars is a masculine sign, Aries is a masculine sign, or Mars is a masculine planet, sorry. Aries is a masculine sign, so there's a lot of masculine energy. So we need to balance it out with this kind of Venus softer approach to things. And that includes all the Libran qualities as well, of a desire for peace, harmony, fairness, justice, balance, diplomacy, all of which often need some kind of compromise to reach. So Venus is also being opposed by the moon So there could be some kind of emotional struggle to reach that place of equilibrium, especially between what may feel right for us as individuals and the other person, people we have our closest relationships and partnerships with, intimate or business. So the Aries Libra axis is about the self and the other. So it's kind of trying to find that compromise between what's right for us and what's right for the other, for everybody else that's included. And so the full moon in Aries is making a beautiful tight conjunction with Chiron at 14 degrees and 2 minutes retrograde of the wounded healer. They are also opposing both the Sun and Venus. Chiron and Venus are also in a tight angle with only 1 degree between them. So this is a powerful connection between them all, which is going to involve some deep psychological, emotional healing coming up for us over these next 2 weeks. Particularly, I think, around this whole kind of scare mongering that's out there at this time, and really kind of pushing that narrative at this time. So the full moon is conjunct Chiron, and it's a fiery, passionate and courageous healing. And it's tuning into and recognizing our old traumas, woundings and scarrings with a view of how much of our old conditioning still creates the way we can be triggered and react in volatile and explosive fashion. And we've just seen quite a lot of explosions happening over this last few days as well. So again, that Mars energy. Chiron, the healer of our wounded past traumatic experiences, is fully in the spotlight at this full moon in Aries. And the moon represents us, the collective. So this will have an overall effect on our collective psyche. Here we have the opportunity to burn away any of those past painful experiences, especially those relating to our personal relationships that are generationally passed on, that are now holding us back and not allowing us to move forward into new territory. By offering them up to the lilac flame of the higher divine source and visualizing, seeing them turn into a beautiful fiery phoenix as we release and let them go, we are healing the self on a deep psychological level of self-value. And so adding an extra level to all of this, we have a T-square with the shadow side of our feminine psyche, Black Moon Lilith. And she is at 19 degrees 50 minutes, so she's almost at 20 degrees in Cancer, so she's almost got to the second decant of the Cancer energy. But Black Moon Lilith is not only making a T-square with the divine feminine and Chiron, so that's the moon and Chiron, as well as the divine masculine and Venus. She is also quincunx or inconjunct, prefer whichever one you prefer, Saturn in Aquarius. They're both the same. It's an energy of 150 degrees and it's an uncomfortable energy. But she's also in a very supportive sextile with Uranus and the North Node in Taurus, while she also trines Neptune in Pisces, but she's also opposing Pluto, who has just stationed direct on the 8th in Capricorn. So with this opposition, we are dealing with an extra dose of darkness coming into the light. It's like we're seeing that negative energy, that kind of darker shadow side of the masculine and the feminine energy. And it's on a Cancer Capricorn axis as well, so that's very interesting. So we're dealing with the archetypal image of the evil, lustful, power-hungry, manipulative, deviant patriarch father, matriarch mother. And this is also, it's like an energy of being willing to sell your soul to the devil in order to keep hold of that, of the power. This is all about power. This is all about taboos and the things, stepping over those lines that you shouldn't cross. That kind of energy that we're dealing with here. So there is also an aspect of being used as a puppet by others in order to achieve the goals that matter the most, but also there's no thought of consequences. The goals that matter the most to those that are pushing a certain agenda, regardless of the consequences here. So this Pluto Black Moon Lilith opposition is also in a T-square with both Sun and Venus, the Moon and Chiron, which is actually creating a cardinal cross as well, although it's not a grand cardinal cross because Pluto is much further out, being at 26 degrees, and all the rest around about 14 to 19 degrees of difference between them. From the 14 degree mark up to the 19 degree mark, should I say. I think, or possibly 13 with Venus as well. So, but they're not as far out as Pluto, even though Pluto is included in this cardinal cross energy. And so for me, I see this as needing to bring the balance of the masculine and the feminine back from the precipice of destruction that we are potentially moving towards, as this is a crossroads and a place of choice. And when I talk about the masculine and the feminine, I'm talking literally about the DNA of the masculine and the feminine, the physical attributes of the masculine and feminine, and the road that we're heading down at this time of kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? I think I kind of said it yesterday in my tarot reading when I was talking about, because we got the death card, which is the Pluto energy, moving towards our own like demise, basically, and being used as puppets in order to kind of reach that goal, which isn't our goal. It's a goal that belongs to the established, like, top-down pyramidal structure, those at the top. Are pushing all of this agenda, but at the same time it's kind of showing us very clearly the choices that we have, and the light and the dark is being shown very clearly before our eyes. And we have these energies who are kind of joining forces and channeling their higher masculine and feminine vibrational energies of healing, light, life and love into the lower, denser vibration of both Black Moon, Lilith and Pluto. So however, with the inconjunct with Saturn, it could all feel very doomed, like we the people have no connection to the outcome, that it is out of our hands, with Saturn in Aquarius, which is the collective. And then we also have this trine with Neptune, who is also sextile to Pluto, and Neptune is trying to kind of pour water on, like, troubled water, like soothe it, pour oil on troubled water, I think the saying is. But anyway, it's kind of like soothing the situation and bringing it down to some kind of like turning the heat down, basically, is what we need to do. We need to turn the heat down because the heat is being ramped up, and again, that's very Mars, fiery, driving energy. So the heat needs to be turned down, and Neptune is kind of trying to tell us to trust this process that is in the hands of the universe, even if the changes that are coming through and that we're seeing happen are very sudden, they're very swift and very unexpected, with this Uranus energy, which is bringing us collapsing tower moments. You've only got to turn the TV on at the moment. Not that I personally listen to any of the mainstream news, and I haven't done for many, many, many years. I haven't touched any newspapers for about the same amount of time. If you read and listen to what's out there, there's a lot of information about how the UK monetary system is collapsing, and I've just heard recently as well that the car bubble has just burst in America as well, so there's a lot of repossessions happening. And so a lot of changes are occurring around us. A lot of things are all kind of coming to a head at this time. And I will just also say, and I've said this before, that this point where Uranus is, this 18-degree point, is the same point it was at when the Second World War started and when Hitler rose to fame, when this tyrannical energy kind of came out of nowhere, very fast, very sudden. But I will say that we're not in the same energy as we were back then, because of course planets move and they change, but this is a cycle of Uranus, so we're kind of seeing the same energy as Uranus was at the last time he was at this 18-degree point of Taurus. That was what happened historically. So we are getting echoes of that energy reverberating out, and it's time for us to heal that energy. It's time for us to move beyond that energy. And so this is all part of our kind of evolutionary growth and of our soul connections as well. And we are in, at this time, a dark night of the soul journey as well. It's like we're yet to come out of that canal, that tunnel. Again, going back to the US and the fact that they are literally in kind of like a new birthing moment, even though they may not be aware of that process. That is where it's at this time, and whatever happens in the US is going to have major effect all over the rest of the world as well. So but I do believe that it's not going to get to that point. Personally, I believe it won't get to that point of total Pluto type destruction. So on the 22nd of October, Venus is going to cazimi, meaning she will cross over the heart of the sun in an extra special event that will take place at the 29 degrees and 28 minutes Libra, in what is known as a superior conjunction, as Venus is in direct motion at this time. So when she's retrograde and she crosses backwards over the sun, she's in an inferior conjunction. But this time she's in a superior conjunction. And so this is her midway point of the Venus synodic cycle, which is an 8-year cycle. So we're at the 4-year cycle. And this is going to occur this time when Venus crosses over the heart of the sun while she is behind him. So Venus is going to go out of sight. They will then travel through the sky together until the end of November. And the next time Venus becomes visible will be mid-November, at which point she will be reborn as the evening star. And so she'll be appearing in the night sky very briefly after the sun has set. But what makes this an extra special event, however, is at the time of this cazimi, the sun and Venus will also be conjunct Haumea, exact at 29 degrees 28 minutes of Libra. This is an exact and very, very rare occurrence. And so Haumea is the Hawaiian volcanic creation and fertility goddess. And she represents the birthing of a new earth into existence. Haumea is also in an extremely rare alignment called a yod, which also goes by the name Finger of God, as it literally looks like a finger pointing. This yod is being made by a powerful sextile with Jupiter and Manwë. So again, we're bringing in that world axis energy, and also Jupiter and Manwë sextile with Sedna. So Sedna is still sitting at the 29 degree of Taurus, 29 degrees 39 minutes retrograde of Taurus, which is an area of Taurus Sedna has been forward and backward over 3 times now. So that critical point of Taurus, which is really kind of destabilizing everything even more, if that was possible. But they, so this, like I was saying, it's helping shift the fixed element of Earth, which all of us being born on this planet, ultimately we are all in that physical form. So we are all kind of fixed earth energy in that sense. We are all from the earth. And so this is kind of pushing us to move beyond the status quo of our stuck, deeply embedded view of the world. Sedna is very much about letting go and surrendering to what is. And she is playing a major part in releasing our hold on what appears to us as solid and stable. What we see as stability in Taurus is being kind of removed at this time. Like I was saying, these kind of tower moments where things are just kind of taken out of our control. And in order to allow something completely new to be birthed. So it's like tearing down all the old structures, all the old that is no longer working for us, no longer viable. And so all three of those energies, Jupiter, Manwë and Sedna, are connecting with the Sun, Venus and Haumea in quincunx, inconjunct angles of that 150 degrees, which is not a comfortable angle. As I've said before, it's coming off a trine, which is 120 degrees, which is easy and comfortable, and it's flowing, but has yet to reach an opposition. So as it moves away from that 120 degree point, it's moving towards the 180 degree opposition energy, which again, the energy flows easily backwards and forwards, but this energy, 150 degrees, is not an easy flowing energy because it always connects with two opposing elements. So that always makes it even more uncomfortable. So yods are said to be fated. They are linked to the 10th Hebrew letter, yod or yod, which is said to have mystical connotations, as it is linked to the omnipresent idea of God. A yod implies a disruptive energy force, but it is one that is full of potential toward a new beginning and destiny. And with Haumea as the apex of this yod, we are dealing with the divine feminine principle and a foundation builder. So Haumea is building the foundations, while Sedna is kind of upsetting the foundations, and along with Pluto as well, who I will actually bring in here as well. So this is interesting, as Haumea is square to Pluto. And so Pluto in the last degrees of Capricorn, he has been digging up the foundations of the establishment, of the governments, of those at the top of that pyramidal structure, since he entered Capricorn in 2008. And when he entered Capricorn in 2008, of course, we got that housing bubble collapse. So that was kind of the first sign of what Pluto was going to be doing. And so Haumea is also about to enter into the sign ruled by Pluto, Scorpio, around mid-November. So this is also adding even more pressure to this ongoing square on one side, as well as that with Aries on Pluto's other side. So Pluto's in between both Aries and Haumea, who are both kind of like squeezing him, if you like, into kind of changing the establishment, the Capricorn energy, the 10th house energy of structure. So Aries being the feisty feminine warrior-S energy. She's the sister of Mars as well, and in mythology it was Aries who actually revelled in the idea of change, of war and discord. But nowadays, because of the way that we are, things have settled down a bit more, so she's a bit more, you're more likely to find her as the activist out there trying to get things changed for the good of everybody in many ways, especially in Aries, because it is about the self. So yeah, although the Hermia, we did have for quite a long time a long-lasting T-square between Eris and Hermia, as well as Pluto. And Pluto being the kind of release point of that T-square. Pluto has really been very much in the focus of the attention for quite a few years now. And also, now that Eris has retrograded back to 24 degrees and Hermia is moving forward, that opposing energy is no longer there. Even though Eris is making a square and so is Hermia, they're no longer connecting with each other. They're both just focused. They're both kind of focused on Pluto directly, without any communication between the two of them any longer. So the truly amazing thing about this yod, however, is the length of its duration, as it will be ongoing from 2022 to 2028. Hermia will remain the apex, but the sextile planets will change. So coming back to October 2022 again, so when I say the sextile planets will change, basically it means that Jupiter and Manway, although Manway may stay there for a lot longer because he's a lot slower moving energy than Jupiter, but Jupiter will move on. But as Jupiter moves on, we also have Neptune going to station and move on as well. So coming back over that same point, so she will start to connect her energy with Hermia and also with Sedna as well, who probably will have moved into Gemini by that time as well. So that again will change the energies. But it's going to be a long-lasting 7-year yod altogether. So coming back to now, to the October 22, on the same day as Venus cazimis the Sun, Saturn is going to station direct at 18 degrees 35 minutes Aquarius, while he is also trine Mercury in Libra and square Uranus and the North Node. So he's also just come off a trine with both Mars and the Sun. His energy, as well as being stationed, which always magnifies and kind of gives that planet's traits extra oomph, if you like, is going to be well and truly activated at this time, because the Sun has just been activating him as well. So not only is he stationing and his energy is going to be very much magnified, amplified at that time, it's also going to be like a very strong double dose of masculine energy as well, driving energy, which in Saturn's case is likely to put restrictions, blockages, barriers, censorship, and the hive mind of one vision fits all into overdrive. So from the kind of end of, or the 22nd of October, we can expect to see things kind of ramp up a little bit around all that idea of restrictions and blockages, and there's going to be calls for these things, more and more censorship and kind of more of the hive mind, trying to get everybody to fit into the idea of credit, what do you call it, my mind's just gone blank, the credit system and all of that kind of thing is really going to be pushed, because Saturn is also going to be in the final aspects of this square with Uranus. So he's going to be squaring the revolutionary, awakening and breaking through Uranus energy and the North Node at the same time for the last time. And so this energy is going to be calling us back to what we value and what is of value, showing us everything we have is all resourced from Mother Earth, which no one, no matter how big their bank balance is or can ever, have the right to full ownership. So it's not about owning the planet, it's about valuing what we have. And Saturn is kind of trying to kind of keep everything literally still locked down, and I think we're going to hear a lot more about that as well, kind of being ramped up again, that whole medical problem that we had over the last 2 years being kind of brought back into the narrative. So although this square is going to begin to start waning and lessening as Saturn turns direct motion from the 24th of October, the tension will continue to be felt during most of November, and it will continue to push for the answers, or push those of us for the answer to the question, for those with an inquiring mind, of slavery versus freedom. So it's really going to push that idea of like breaking free, breaking out, breaking away from the fixed energy of this is how it must be, because this is how it's always been, which is that very kind of Saturn controlling, very controlling energy. And this Uranus awakening. So really, when it comes down to it, it's going to be the awakening, the great awakening, versus the great reset. That's really what we've got here. And so the same day that Saturn begins to move forward, both the Sun and Venus are going to move into Scorpio, and they're going to be getting ready for their partial solar eclipse, which is happening with the South Node on the 25th. And that's going to be taking place at 2 degrees of Scorpio. And as I was saying earlier, what's interesting about that is also that Venus and the Sun are moving together at this time as well. So I will talk more about that in my next video. But the Sabian symbol for the 16 degrees of Aries is 2 prim spinsters sitting together in silence. And this symbol shows that quiet withdrawal might be just what you need. However, it is easy to become isolated in conservative, albeit moral, ideas. You may find that there is only a select, restricted group with whom you wish to associate. There can be a quiet knowing that doesn't need a lot of words or emotional displays. Just be wary that this false sense of security doesn't isolate you from change and growth. Unresolved issues can lead to stunted emotional responses. Look for opportunities to open up to new possibilities. Loosen up emotional blockages, holding on to one's original identity, not wanting to compromise because of social expectations, and relationships that have a quiet knowing. These are all aspects, positive aspects, the higher vibrational aspects of this particular degree. And then the lower, more base vibrational frequency is the emotional insulation, refusing relationship, pretending to be something, disapproval of younger, more vital energies, being fussy and judgmental. So that's the zodiac astrology part of the reading, and we'll finish it off with a couple of cards to see what the energies would like to say here. While I'm shuffling, I would just say thank you very much to those of you who have come across to watch my reading. If you have found it of any interest, please could you thumbs it up for me. Give me a thumbs. A like really helps to let the platform know what's going on with my channel. As I've said before, I don't get notifications, and it's very difficult to find my channel as well. So if you can help me to grow my channel by sharing it and liking it and commenting as well, that always helps as well for some interaction there. So I'm also pulling a Ask and It Is Given card here. So the first card that we have is fear has always been your greatest enemy, and yet fear has helped you because through your fears you have journeyed far. Which kind of fits in with the whole energy that we're in at this time as well, the push of the the fear. And also fear being an energy that is very easy to control. When we're in that element, that energy of fear, it's a lot easier to control a person in fear than it is to control somebody who's very much in control of their own energy. So we have, I will reach for the best feeling thought I have access to. And this is really quite interesting and important at this time as well, because this is also about, and it kind of came up in my tarot reading yesterday, about the fear element, and I talked about it with the death card. If you haven't watched my tarot reading, it's up on my channel, but I talk about it with the death card as in the sense of it being it came out with two other interesting cards as well, but it's to do with the thoughts. It's to do with us having control over our own thoughts and not allowing others to push us into a certain way of thinking and being, because that's the energy. It came out with the Magician and the Knight of Swords, which I'm just being shown in my head. So those cards are about like fast action, speaking, narrative is the Knight of Swords, and the Magician is all about what we're manifesting. So it's kind of saying like control your thoughts, be in control, be in charge of your thoughts, don't allow others to manifest for you, because the Magician came out upside down as well. So I'm kind of getting the same energy with this as well, and it's saying always be reaching for the feeling of relief that comes when you release a more resistant thought and replace it with a more allowing, better feeling thought. The stream of well-being is always flowing through you, and the more you allow it, the better you feel. The more you resist it, the worse you feel. And that has got quite a lot to do with the Saturn energy that I was talking about as well, the restrictions, the blockages that we're all feeling at this time. And it's basically saying that when we get those feelings, when we get stuck on a thought, a negative pattern of thinking, to change that, to bring ourselves back into a place of happiness, a better feeling, a better thought, to align ourselves with something that feels good in order to change that negative place that is kind of taking over at that time, to kind of rise above that. So I'm going to finish the reading here and say thank you very much for those of you who have liked my videos, for those of you who have shared my videos, and for those of you who do leave me comments. I really do appreciate it. And also for those of you who haven't subscribed yet, could you please do so? Just tap that button that's on the video and it will come up with a bell, and you can tap that as and when, if you want my videos to know when they're coming out. Also, for those of you who may be interested, there is a playlist with the sun signs on for previous readings that I have done. For the zodiac signs, there's no time and no date, because I just think that it's all about the titles. So if the title resonates with you, then it doesn't matter what time the video was put out. It's kind of irrelevant. If it's happening now, then it's happening now, and it's your video in that moment. So with all that being said, I'm going to wish you all the best for this fiery, passionate Aries full moon, and remember, if you get triggered, to take that feeling and move it into a place of a much happier emotion. Hopefully I will see you all again soon at the next time, and take really good care of yourselves.